Okay. Right. So, Alan, thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time to talking to us. People are going to start joining us in a minute. So I'd like to start on time and finish on time because I'm sure you got something else to do and you're a busy man. And have a
Not
nice
these
coffee.
days, I have to say, not really these days.
Keep the schedule, keep working, writing down, keeping planning, keeping, thinking forward. That's the way we do things. But thank you very much. So I've been talking to people in the last few weeks. And this started as a crazy idea of, talking to one of the Israeli guys about something. And then eventually we brought Danny Netzer, which is a guy now in charge of Krav Maga IDF, and then Shahal, and then you had Guy Moore. And then eventually this, became a snowball now.
That's awesome.
And it's nice because, people that like, except you, we met back in 2010, I think it was in Israel.
Yep.
And then I don't think we met once again, and that was it. That was many years ago.
I think we met again when there was KMG.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? When they had that switch in 13, I think it was.
In one of the camps, yeah, that's correct, yes. And that was it. But we always kept in contact, Facebook or whatever that is. And you doing your stuff over there, we are doing our stuff over here. And then I thought, okay, let's get in touch with you and try to find out more about you, about your story, the whole history, and I'm sure you're going to have plenty of things to talk about it. But you only have 1 hour, so
it's okay.
Fire them up.
You see the white beard, there's a lot of years to cover.
we will have more interviews after this one. The first hour we get out of the way, and then we can have a part 2.
It's okay. No, but listen, thanks for having me and stuff. Like I said, we've known each other through Eyal first.
That's right.
By the way, I wanted to give a shout out. I saw also to Joel that we never met, but I know that we had common relationships in Israel and stuff. And I wanted to kind of give a shout out to all the Haim Zud people, because like I said, we just lost Haim,
yes.
About 10 days ago. And like I said, it's very, very interesting. That's actually my second time in Israel.
Okay.
But my first time with Krav Maga, and it was definitely interesting.
Well,
so
I talked to Joel this afternoon. We had a 5 o'clock meeting here. We had an hour chat. We talked about Haim Zut and about all the legacy and then how people used to train with him and the idea, the mindset behind the whole thing. It was very interesting to find out more about that. And as I was saying to Joel, we never had the chance to meet all the instructors because sometimes people that run Krav Maga in that part of the world are very protective. It's my people, your people, you don't touch my guys, I don't touch your guys, or so on. But it was nice talking about it. But tell me about you, man. I'm talking about you. You originally Italian, and then from there you fill the gap now.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Italy, and then at a certain point, my mother actually is American. She moved back to the United States, and I decided to come over here. But first, I joined the Italian Army. I was a couple of years in the Italian Army. An airborne unit over there, and then I took a 6-month party vacation, and then it's actually in Italy. That's when I first got exposed to Krav Maga. I was in Somalia. Coming back from Somalia, we stopped in Eilat. I didn't know that much about Israel at that time, and besides partying like crazy after 2 months in Somalia,
Italian paratroopers in Somalia. I can imagine the size of the damage.
Yeah, exactly. So you put us in Eilat, lots of bikinis, lots of, Eilat. So it was a terrible time. And they pay us cash. So it was a bunch of 20-year-olds in Eilat.
Pay us cash? Oh my God.
In 1995. So somehow we survived that. It was more dangerous than Somalia. But I fell in love with Israel. I mean, I really fell in love with Israel and the mentality. I mean, if you've been like all of us here, a lot of us, to Israel, that so many people have a certain idea of what it means to have Krav Maga, but when you go to Israel, you understand that it's not about the technique. There's really a mentality and something that is connected to the people.
Yeah.
And it's not about wearing tactical pants and doing God knows what nonsense. It's really about, going to a restaurant and there is a waiter that has a gun on him and, especially in the early days,
yes.
When you're talking about early 2000s, and there's it spills over into civilian. And so I've always tried to connect Krav Maga that way. That everybody looks at it for military, but realistically, military and civilian in Israel is one and the same.
Yes.
And so after the Italian Army, I came to the US. I did 6 months of kind of messing around, and then I joined the US Army. I was in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. and for 3 years. And it was a good unit. I was able to, there was no hand-to-hand at that time. I was able to go through the Green Berets just started a program that they initiated from the Marine Corps called line training. And it was like instructor number, I think 30. And, but it was a great experience because I was able to convince my chain of command to send me. And I was the first one of the 82nd Airborne to go through that course. Wow. And kind of start. So it was uncharted territory. And then from there, the Rangers were already using Army combatives, what now it's Army combatives in Jiu-Jitsu. So it was interesting to kind of see the evolution. And at the end of 99, I get out and moved to New York. I started training with Roman Mizrachi. And there was one of the few Israelis at that point active. But I've always liked, like you were saying, I don't like when people tell me that I cannot train with certain people. It just pisses me off. And because ultimately it's like you're married to somebody. It's like, no, you can't see women outside. You can't, if that's the extent of the relationship, it's not going to last very long.
So that's what marriage is all about, Alan. This is what marriage is all about, unfortunately. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I've been a couple of times and stuff on it, so we're about to get married again. So let's bypass.
Okay, so let's delete this beach. She's never gonna see this.
Exactly. No, but it's and so I started training with Ron, and I did my instructor course with Haim. He came up also with a couple of people from Israel. We did or one person from Israel, I think, and we had like a Wingate mandated course that Haim ran. It was different. It was 3 weeks. It was very interesting. And from there, then we had 9/11 because it was 2011. It was a little bit of craziness. I was in New York at that time. And then I asked Haim if I could go. So after a few months, I went down there, and it was interesting. And 2002, and I spent there about 6 weeks. And it was interesting. I stayed at his house and stuff. He put me up with his daughter.
In 2002?
Early days.
2002.
Yeah. Wow. So that was really, but I mean, it was early days.
Were you there? Were you there when they had attack in Netanya at the Park Hotel?
I was, that wedding attack, it was the week before I got there.
Really? Because I was there at the time, and then they had a second attack in Netanya where 2 guys were shooting at people and running out of throwing grenades into the restaurants and stuff. I was there. I was there for a month. So we missed one another for maybe a week or two then. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah, I was staying in Herzliya, just know about, also, Haim was always in Pardesana, and then Uri, that it was in Black Belt, like Joel knows, was in Hadera. And I was staying, like I said, in Herzliya, was it Herzliya? Yeah, I think it was.
No, I stayed in Netanya. Netanya was the center of the world back in the day, yeah? Everything happened in Netanya.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it was an interesting experience. I came back, honestly, I went through some rough times because it's kind of like when you start kind of looking outside, because even in Israel, honestly, compared to the United States, Krav Maga training was very different.
Yeah.
And I had some issues with also my old instructor, Ron, partially because he never taught, at that time, not right now, I don't know, I haven't talked to him in a long time, but there was this idea that Americans or foreigners could not handle Krav Maga a certain way, and and so they were doing this watered down version. And then I went to Israel, and honestly, it was completely different. I mean, especially Haim, his old school was always considered the fighting school. And so for 2 months, realistically, that's all we did. We had very little technique. There was a Friday class. There was a black belt class with Donnie. Donnie kicked my ass. I broke my collarbone with Donnie.
Let me give people a bit of perspective. People knows me, yeah? So I'm Danny, and Alan is about like this. He's about 7.5 feet tall. Huh? I've got a picture.
Yeah, but he's a, but
no, of course he's a machine, yes, but I'm saying.
He was a machine then. And so, and I came, listen, in all honesty, right now, we're changing Krav Maga but again, early days, it was interesting because unfortunately, the people that knew how to fight at that time, did not know how to fight through Krav Maga.
Right.
You know what I mean? They had a boxing background, they had a traditional martial arts background. And so when I went over there, I was not happy because I wasn't prepared.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just because I literally fought morning and afternoon. It was at Adera, it was in Zikron with this guy named Ilan. And I did not even have shin pads. I got my ass kicked and I couldn't give me shin pads. So I was completely destroyed after almost 2 months.
Wow.
And, but it was interesting because when I went back, I right away joined the Muay Thai school. I started doing other stuff because unfortunately at my current school, I was not getting that training.
Wow.
And
So
I got connected also with the...
For people who don't know, that they used to use the foreigners as a guinea pigs. So let's train some stuff on these people. So they are paying to come here. We're going to beat the crap out of them, and they're going to enjoy so much they're going to come back later. And that was exactly what happened.
Exactly. But if you see, even you remember there was that show on Fight side or one of the fight things and stuff.
Fight Quest or something like that.
And that was the mentality when a foreigner comes in. So I was this Italian guy, just came out of the U.S. Army. They didn't know what the hell I was, honestly.
Super tall. Yeah, let's beat him up.
Everybody thought I was Russian. So that was another level of confusion.
Oh, right.
And like I said, it was interesting because it wasn't, and as you know, it was a different time. It was, I'm not saying that it was better or worse, but it definitely gave you an idea of the place that was less sanitized, you know, because sometimes then the trips become really the perception of what people expect.
Yes.
I like the fact that it was very simple.
It was raw. It was very raw,
It was no fancy places. Yeah. People were wearing weird uniforms. That's really over there. When you travel over there, there's no school like yours or mine. No. I mean, Zev is obviously a school.
Yes, he was one of the few. It was him and Gabi Noah that I remember there.
Exactly. And even Gabi Noah, I still remember. I'll say a story because I don't care if he says.
No, Gabi. Yeah, go ahead.
With Peter Lakatos walking into his school, besides that, going to the bathroom was an adventure. I don't know if you remember the bathroom at the end.
with the light bulb broken and the one that wasn't working.
You don't go in the bathroom. But I remember opening this closet and there were probably 50 Thigh Masters. You know those purple things? You remember that? Yeah. And it's like, who the hell has these Thigh? And he told me, he's like, oh no, we have classes here, Thigh Master classes. And so it's different.
Different approach.
It was different, the mentality.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It was...
I used to love the fact that next door to his gym, they used to have those big windows. They used to open it. And the guys next door used to burn chicken, like feathers and stuff. And the smell of the chicken feather used to, this big cloud into the place. And you're there with 40 degrees Celsius, no air con, breathing through your arse and going, dying. That was like a phenomenal time. Yeah.
It was different. But you know, what I liked about that time, again, it wasn't the sanitized version that is right now. But on the flip side, that's what I mean. There was really that connection to talk about reality. Sure. It was people training with jeans sometimes. I'm sure you've seen it too. People were training in regular pants. When you look at Haim, what made an impact on me, it was the fact that I think that with all the instructors that, listen, everybody has ego. That we like it or not, the whole leave the ego at the door.
Yeah, it's beautiful for advertising, but in real life it's different, especially in Israel.
But no, you still put yourself in front of people telling them, hey, I'm going to teach you how to kick somebody's ass. So obviously, you got to know what you're doing. But with Haim, what it was interesting compared to the other ones, the various, like I said, Gabi, that is tremendous, or anybody, he wasn't the practitioner. I always thought that was interesting because he was really, truly the coach. I mean, Haim, as much as I love him, because his family, he could not do 99% of the things that he was teaching people to do, but not because he couldn't technically, just physically. He just, when you see Danny, that is the students, and you see Haim, there's no way that Haim could do what Danny does.
Right.
And, but he was able to bring really the best out in people. And so I think that that's very unique to him, that as a coach, as an instructor.
Right.
Because I think that all of us at a certain point have to kind of leave I'm 48. I can only kick so much ass. At the end of the day, I'm all broken. I'm sure you are too.
No, you can kick ass. The problem is the next day. It's the recovery. Is wake up in the morning, think you're dead. It's like, holy shit.
You come out, and then the next morning you can't get up out of bed.
That's me.
I just think that it was interesting because when you see him, he was more really always pushing people to be better. I mean, when you see Avivit, when you see Uri, when you see Danny, when you see all kinds of people, it was interesting because it was really, and these people were super respectful to him. Nobody said, hey, this guy cannot do. So I think that for our industry, it was very unique because then you have a Yal that obviously is tremendous physically and so on. But so when I came back, I was part of the whole, I don't know if you know, but in the US, there was a trademark at a certain point, but worldwide.
Yep.
So I was kind of the broker because I became friends with Darren. I was invited to a seminar. So I was able to kind of broker a little bit wrong with worldwide, and they set up a deal that that basically, give Rome some territory. But anyway, I was invited. I went and moved to Los Angeles. I started teaching with Darren.
Right.
I was lucky because it was a tremendous time. It was a time in which you would walk in and have Bas Rutten teaching class, or Oleg Tatarov.
It was in the beginning, 92, 90, whatever
I
it
know.
was.
But that, these guys were incredible. You'll have SEAL Team 6 come in, or Delta, or whoever. And, I was straight out of New York. And like I said, and I was lucky. I was able to train with these guys at a time in which these guys were reachable. Now you try, Bas is awesome, but you can't approach people like this anymore. Like that.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. And also,
the
big difference. Back in the day, as far as I remember, when I joined in 2002, I sent Al an email saying, look, I want to become an instructor, but there's nothing here in the UK. Can I go to Israel? I want to go there and experience the whole thing. And he goes, but we don't have any instructor's course here, unless if you want to come and do a private one here. I says, okay, I've got a month. Can I do in a month? And then he was like, are you sure? Are you fit enough for a whole 7 days, 6 days a week? So like, come on, I'm a black belt in karate. Of course I'm fit. Oh my gosh. That was the biggest mistake ever. But the point what I'm saying is that the guys in US, Darren took the Krav Maga plus marketing plus the franchising and made this into a multi-million-dollar business, as far as I could understand that. Well, the Israelis could not follow that because it was always like, a small club, a small place. Even today, if you go to Israel and you go to different cities and ask for Krav Maga club, but that teaches Krav Maga, not jiu-jitsu, not whatever, boxing and all that. There are many, not many, a few clubs there. Here in London, we have way more clubs than in the whole Israel together, I would say.
Absolutely.
You understand? So that's when things start changing a little bit. But then that is the good and the bad in all this, because the becoming this franchise thing, you became body combat, Krav Maga combat instructor. What is that supposed to mean? Oh, I've got to punch pads.
What I will say is this, listen, it's like everything, we've seen, I think that, as I think that I see different instructors on here. If you own a business, I hate to say it, but to always keep things kosher, it's impossible.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I'm sure that all of us have put sometimes an instructor in there that didn't teach the class a certain way, especially all of us, an instructor underneath that. We have made mistakes and stuff like that. I know that Aim did it. I know that Eyal, we know, and we've been both directors, so we know the dirty laundry.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily a criticism, because I think that when you are in a certain position, things there's no way to do the right thing 100% of the time. Yeah. I think that the key thing is making sure that you're keeping your mission. It's just a certain way. I remember Darren at the beginning. Listen, Darren is tremendously charismatic.
I never had the chance to meet him. Unfortunately, I've never had the chance to.
He is an incredible presenter. I think he's very talented. He worked very hard. Again, he's not in a Eyal. He doesn't move like a Eyal. Mm-hmm. But when he's in front, you can see him. Listen, we've been in seminars in which Eyal is tremendous, but he has 100 people looking at him, and sometimes it's not the most dynamic. And it's just the way it is. It's a Eyal. You do mental training, you do whatever. He's tremendous, but as far as the connection to the crowd, now Darren is the opposite. Darren is not a Eyal physically, but Darren connects with people that, I think that all of us, being a coach, is having different, or an instructor, is having different strengths.
Yeah.
And Darren could be in front of a room of DEA, an interdiction team that go to Colombia, super high-speed guys, and these guys are ripped, they're fighting machine, they're armed to the teeth, and they're still kind of listening to Darren like he's this god. Right. And I think that there's something to be said about that. And
the magnetism, is very important.
So, but if you're an instructor, you have to be able to connect with people. And I think that sometimes we know plenty of talented people that cannot teach people.
That's funny thing is you're saying is we had an instructor's course last year, and the first thing I said to the guys is, you can be as good as you like, as black belt champion of the world, but how many students do you have? Because I'd rather have a blue belt that is not a champ of the world, but he has like 100 students that follow him anywhere, that he can develop these people. So, it's, we've seen a lot of Israelis that are the champions of the world in Krav Maga, even though there's no championships. Yeah. But it's only one guy on Instagram.
Yeah. I think that, I agree with you. And ultimately, we have to remember that teaching is about influence. People have to be able to trust you. And, You have to be able to get people. It goes back to the Heim thing that I was saying before.
Yeah.
People have to feel that you're speaking to them and with their best interest in hand and to get the most out of them. How many pro fighters, even of the UFC, you really see as great instructors? These are badasses, and
they're individuals. They're good at what they're doing. They're fighting machines, but not necessarily they can open a club and have 1,000 people following them.
You have to be selfish to be at that level. I feel like you have to do what works for you, and it's all about you. And for us, instead, we're learning from everybody, because listen, all of us kind of tend to be bald and pretty strong guys and so on. Maybe not the tallest, but that's a different.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes we don't get the right size of the stick, a shorter one.
But joking aside and stuff, it's and so now if we want to be able to teach our students, we have to be able to connect with them and actually see how they feel. And some skills are going to be maybe not good for me, but good for them. And it takes a certain mentality to do that.
So one of the Israelis gave me this analogy that you're the chef, that you create the menu based on the customer's choices and allergies and whatever that is there. So you come up with, what do you want to see? I want to improve my striking. Okay, so let's do some striking. I want to improve my, defense against knife. Okay, so let's work with knives and so on. But in order for you to get that level, you need to have the experience. You need to, as I said, I tried many different ways and got it right, got it wrong, learned from different people. And now you have enough experience where you can approach people and say, okay, let's do it. The only problem with that is that you become the grandfather of Krav Maga here. You look at the people like you look at your grandson and go, poor little you, let me work with you a little bit. So they look at you like you're an old man already, you past your time. And you have to go back and say, we still have the skills there. The stuff you're going to learn, we already forgot many bits of it, but we have the connections, we have other people, it's a team effort, if you like. When it comes
I think that, listen, obviously now we're starting to age ourselves a little bit.
Just a bit.
But I do feel that, listen, we've been doing this for a very long time right now. I think that when you're still kind of basing your knowledge on single techniques, you're still in that, not the first layer, but definitely I think that most people can stay on that. I think that when you start being, listen, it's like a Yal sometimes. How many times you would ask a Yal and people would ask these crazy questions. Okay, the hand is like this, something like that. And he's like, who cares? It's like this. I feel like until you let go a little bit of those, but it's not, there's wrong and there's right. But I think that when you're looking for somebody to spoon feed you the information, you're still not grown past a certain point.
Good point.
And I don't know. Like I said, it's just, I just think it is different. Definitely Darren, I learned a lot as far as running different classes about connecting a certain way. Listen, unfortunately, sometimes with the Yal and Darren, there was always some friction for a number of reasons. To me, it's all petty at the end.
From another side, you mentioned about Israel, you mentioned about, the roughness over there, the way life it is, but they live in a different circumstances. They are over the threat of war all the time. If you're not a fighter, because my first question when first time I was there was asking Shahal, the big Shahal, says, do you guys, people join the army for 3 years, okay, as a special force soldier, whatever. 6 months prior to the soldier leave, would you start calming him down a little bit, move into a different place where he can do a more relaxed job and talk him down, prepare the soldier for the life outside the civilian world? And he says no. He said no, because he's going to be a soldier from 18 until he's 40 years old, if not.
Absolutely.
So we cannot calm the person down. He's going to leave the special unit, join the civilian world, and congratulations, off you go. And I'll see you every year for reserve service or whatever. So I found that phenomenal. I was like, whoa, this is not natural. The problem that I see teaching here in other countries around here in Europe is that people are not prepared for that kind of line of thinking, the Israeli way of doing. You know what I mean? Like Danny Netzer had a chat with us, and he was very clear, very Russian, Ukrainian way of saying, if you cannot do push-ups on your fist, you're no good in terms of counterattacking. And that we had many people here, emailing us back and sending videos, all worry about it. I cannot do push-ups. That means I'm no good with it. I says, no. You need to understand the whole context of the thing, the way they think. They train soldiers, 18, 19, 20-year-old people, got plenty of them. They don't care if they're going to come back tomorrow or not.
But I see a weakness in that, honestly, because if you remember also with Emi, there was a interview a long time ago that actually Eyal, I think, showed us. And it was about Emi talking to Eyal about the fact that he would like the system to be also for his wife. And I think that within our context of teaching regular people, I need to be, like you said, I mean, I think, let's put it this way. Everybody's always looking for the next Israeli commando. I don't know how many commandos they have, but there are a lot of them.
Oh, man,
I've never seen
unit.
so many special forces like in Israel. But, you know, having said that, I do feel that the skill or the tools have to match the unit, even in the Army. If I'm teaching special forces skills to an infantryman, it's not going to work, and vice versa. And I think that too many times people are looking for skills, and like I said, Danny has a certain approach because that's his job. I mean, he has to produce people a certain way. But look, in Israel, for example, adults, I don't think people realize that most of the students in Israel are kids.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's in the Army, you do a silly course, but not silly course. It's just the Army is the Army.
It's a very specific.
And it's like this small compared to everything else. It's and then obviously you have people like Danny and so on, but then it becomes more about building the soldier. That's always been hand to hand in the Army. But if you look at the schools in Israel, they don't cater to their regular population. Like you go, like I said, Zev was always, his school was always, I don't know how it is right now because my information is dated, but it was always 80% kids.
Yes.
And so I think that people don't realize that. And then for us instead, it's backwards.
Yes.
Like you don't see that many women training Krav Maga in Israel.
That's another one that I was talking about this with who was it? No, Joel Bennett. It was someone else I spoke the other day. It's exactly the same thing. We don't see many females black belt. We see female instructors, but Israel is very rare. You can count in one hand. I mean, I know two at
and
least.
just even women that don't get to that level.
I know two.
I mean? It's just,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know a few through, obviously, I know Merav was one of them.
Yes,
and then,
Merav
and then Avivi.
Those are the only two that I know.
Yeah, Avivi produced a few, you know what I mean? And then, fortunately, to her credit, she's really done a great job at promoting that. But I think it's important we see it where, again, in Israel, that training might be okay, but even then, you're leaving a lot of people behind. Now, if you're looking for the Army training, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for civilian training, if you want whoever to also know how to protect themselves, sometimes you can't make them into special forces. Otherwise, they will not be special forces. They will be regular forces.
Exactly.
And special forces need special people. Yeah. And I think that sometimes people will die trying or pretend. And that's what we find ourselves with our industry, unfortunately, is full of pretenders. Because everybody feels like that is the standard. If you are an instructor, you have to say that you're special forces. You have to say you killed people with your teeth, you bite their jugular off. Because otherwise, and some instructor really got themselves in trouble for that, as opposed to saying, listen, I'm a civilian, I have done this. I was never a crazy special forces commando, takedown, whatever. I was regular Army. And so that's my, but even there, the experience that I had was the fact that I was teaching 110 soldiers at one time. Right. So that was my experience. It wasn't about, but I think that, like I said, there has to be more of that type of conversation. I think sometimes a civilian, I love when I see women instructors because they bring a perspective that is completely different.
Yeah.
You know, and that's more valuable. If I learn from a woman what she can do at 100 pounds, man, to me that I'm not 100 pounds, you know, it's gonna be great. But the opposite is not true.
You go 100 pounds in one leg, more like
or less.
More or less.
I'm Italian too, so it's different. It's everything.
Wow. Well, let me ask you one thing back here. In your family, did you have anyone in the military back in the day, or you were the only one?
My grandfather was in the U.S. Army. But,
your grandfather, okay.
Yeah, my grandfather was American. He's my only American person. And he was in the military. That's I was born on a military base in Vicenza, Italy. That's one of the airborne units.
Fantastic.
So, but I just had this thing. I always liked martial arts and the structure. And I also, as you know, that you wear belts and you kind of took a certain direction also with your school. Yeah. And I do too. And I do feel like sometimes we ask people, there's a certain discipline that sometimes we forget that you need to do what we do. And people like you, like me, have it. Some people need it. You know what I mean? It's just, you can't train without discipline a certain way. And in the Army is implied, you're teaching soldiers.
That's it.
But with us, you get somebody that, listen, we live in nice countries and where wealth is great. I'll move to an area where it's safe, avoid hard things. The problem is that then when it comes to self-defense and so on, you have to tackle, like even right now, this problem with coronavirus, where we get a little weak.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We need to be able to make sure that in training, I think we put that component. We don't want to be militaristic, but I think it's important even that structure and stuff that promotes.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons why we decided to go with the belts is because you remember the patches. P1, P2, P3, and then eventually when you came to teach a class, it's like, what's your level? Because people never had those badges sold to the trousers. Oh, I'm a P5. But did you actually grade for P5? No. I missed 3 or 4 gradings, but in my head, I'm a P5. Oh, well, you're not a P5 then. In your head, you think you are, but in reality, you're not. So with the belts, gave us, the easy approach. I can look at your belt and I can tell exactly what level you are based on your experience and so on. And it's easier for us to teach the class and to organize the class. And also, from my proper understanding, as I was talking about this yesterday, is that when I was a white belt in karate many years ago, I was standing at the end of the queue, looking at the other side. The black belts were there. Says, how long does it take to go there? I want to be on the other side. I don't want to be here. So there was a way of creating a goal where every time I graded, I shifted a little bit more. And I got more knowledge, more experience, and so on. And I see this in the students here that after grading from white to yellow belt, they walk already different. They walk into the, I'm a yellow belt now. Look at me. Congratulations.
I think also, listen, as much as we don't like it, we like it, it doesn't matter. There's 2 sides of it, I think. Is one of them is the fact that people understand belts.
Yes.
It comes from another system. I watch a movie. They understand black belt and white belt. They
know what the brown belt means, yeah.
Exactly, and it's important because otherwise you're passing your time. I'm sure you had it too. Oh, I'm G3. What is it? What belt am I? So that's a problem, yes. And then I have somebody that tells me that, like, even with worldwide, because at a certain point they started doing these. So worldwide has 3 phases,
right?
And then they do these expert classes, they call it. They're basically, that's after, so they get to green belt and then they get expert whatever, and they go into blue belt, into brown belt, and then eventually, but the expert is the name of the seminars. So when we started kind of pushing here in the United States, at that point, I think it was expert 1 or expert 2, they started using, I had one guy tell me, oh, I'm expert 8. I'm like, how do you mean you're expert 8? Oh, I've taken 8 of these expert, and they give him it. And so, and I'm like, yeah, but what is your belt? Because I know worldwide they give you a belt certificate. He's like, oh, I'm a blue belt, but you're not fucking expert 8, No, but it's people started having it like that. You know what I mean? It's just, and that's, again, it creates confusion. And in my opinion, and I remember talking to Darren, the belt, unfortunately, that we like it or no, I mean, I get it at the beginning that Eyal, Darren, whoever else, Haim Gidon, whoever, had to create a foundation that allowed the system to grow with seeds like us, where we were not black belts, we were not experts, still promoting the system in the country. The problem is that, again, nobody wants to learn from a yellow belt. I mean, if Alan or Joe opens a school that says, hey, I'm teaching Krav Maga, I'm a Krav Maga yellow belt, who the hell is going to go there?
Exactly.
But if you take out the belt, all of a sudden, now, after 20 years of Krav, or 30 years being Krav Maga in this country, we have to take off the training wheels. We can't always stay with the training wheels because it's convenient. I'm sure that you see it all the time with KMG and all these organizations. They never grew past that. And so you still have schools that are opening with the G1s. Yeah. And you will think, like jiu-jitsu started with where you would have blue belts teaching. But now, I don't think that even in Europe and whatever, you don't have blue belts opening schools.
No, it wasn't the beginning.
They graduated to a different level.
Yeah, what happened with BJJ is that after the first UFC, when they start winning the stuff, guys will fly from Rio, Sao Paulo to Europe or US as a blue belt. And by the time they landed on the other side, they were black belts.
That's a different story.
There were many cases of that,
Of course, but
because nobody had the knowledge to match those guys. Even a blue belt, the guy could kill everybody there. It's like, okay, he's a black belt. But then after a while, the black belts arrived, and then people went, okay, I think it's time to move now. Let's go somewhere else there. But what I want to get
never outgrew that. If you think about it as a system, we're still relying heavily on people that don't know anything.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, they don't know anything. And it's very dangerous because then it makes our job and our students, ultimately people are trusting us with information. And as an industry, we were so worried about growing our little business, IKMF, KMG, worldwide, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that we forgot that what we did here, it impacted the whole industry.
Yes.
And ultimately people are training with idiots. And as a Krav Maga, unfortunately, as a name, is not a good name in a lot of places.
Yes.
And it's a shame because we know we have some badasses, and a lot of time people like us will go and change people's minds.
Yeah.
But
Benny Netzer came with something very interesting. He said that in the army in Israel, they want to separate from the name Krav Maga because they think Krav Maga became civilian became mad and wrong. It's like we don't want to have any connection with that, which is like wow, sounds like the corona hitting us here, and more or less the same effect is scary.
I always liked the Shahar, and it's interesting because Shahar, you remember when Eyal tried to put him teaching GICs and things like that, and he couldn't do it. But not because he cannot do it, because unfortunately the curriculum that is taught in the Army has nothing to do with the civilian version.
Yes.
And then it becomes where everybody is using this marketing approach of is the official system of the Israeli Army, but they don't realize or they don't care that it's not true.
Part of it is part of the Israeli army.
No, but part of it. But what you know what I mean is
yeah. No, I mean I'm joking.
It's a different. Obviously, I don't want to minimize it, but because again, it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's.
No, I'm joking. You know the story about this. Let's not let the truth take away a great story. We can still tell the story, but not necessarily it's true. But hey, as long as it sells, as long as we make money, everybody will be okay. Some of them will think like that, unfortunately.
The approach is valid, because obviously the fact that Israel has a conscript army, it definitely has a certain, it gives a certain validity to the fact that everybody needs to know it. Women, men, they're all young kids coming out of high school. They need to know something. So that was Israel was the first country to really do a broad stroke hand-to-hand system that catered with everybody. Because like I said, when I was in the US Army, there was no hand-to-hand, none. There was a little bit of basic training, but nothing. And now instead, all the armies have systems. Even the Italians just have a system that one of my old friends, and now it's a general over there, set up this a mixed martial arts system for, it's interesting.
And back in the day when you served in the, what is the unit called in Italy?
The Italian, Folgore.
Yeah, okay. Do the guys have any training in specific, or just boxing, or you're a black belt in something, come here and teach us something? And
Nothing.
Nothing. Wow.
Zero. So, listen, we would have sometimes people that would do a little bit. I'm saying the U.S. Army was interesting because there was already a lot of BJJ that was starting to spread. And I remember actually being years later in Eyal's backyard. It was Amnon, Zeb was there, and everybody was bitching. You remember the backyard trainings. And everybody was bitching of the fact that it's like, why is the U.S. Army using jiu-jitsu? But one of the things that they did not understand, I tried to explain to them, for the U.S. Army, it wasn't about the soldier doing fighting skills. It was really about building soldiers. It was already, even when I was there, as soon as it was hot, or as soon as there was a break, people would fight. And you don't want people fist fighting because then people get injured. And so it was more of a leadership course at the beginning. And then it kind of
channeling the energy and getting them trained and prepare them.
And also see the type of person. It takes a certain, when I was in the Army, we started using a lot of optics. And the idea was to kind of desensitize the person to the fact that they're going to put somebody on their sides and kill them. And so they started making it more like a video game. And then they realized that you cannot have pansies in the Army. And so you cannot just have somebody that plays with a Commodore 64 back in the day, or now Nintendo or whatever, but that you need a badass to kill another person. And so the hand-to-hand program was really to make sure that everybody had a baseline of that character that could see somebody bleeding and still drag him and shoot somebody and take him out. And that was the big portion of the hand-to-hand system. It wasn't about the techniques.
Interesting. Someone got a question. Adrian, can you unmute your microphone and ask that question? Please.
Thanks, Joe. Hey, Alan, I wanted to ask, following on immediately from what you were saying about the US hand-to-hand program, MAC, why do you think no one ever took the concepts of MAC and Jiu-Jitsu as it was trained there and turned it into a big civilian marketing program to sell that into the civilian market?
So there are some guys, and we actually have some Krav Maga instructors with me that are also either McMap because every program is every unit, like a McMap is for the Marine Corps, and then they have Army combatives, obviously. I think is because honestly, for civilians, it is. I personally think, for what it's worth, that it's so close to mixed martial arts as far as the training approach, and it's so much fighting. You don't teach self-defense in the Army, you know. And so I feel like if you take out, like even with the Marine Corps, if you look at it, it's mixed martial arts, and then they'll do some rifle stuff, some disarming stuff. But when you take those out for the civilian, then it becomes mixed martial arts. And even the 82nd Airborne, where I was, does an All-American week every year. They do fights in the cage. And they have, like if you look on YouTube, you'll see cage fights. And so I think that there wasn't enough, you know, again, Israel is a different, everybody goes through it. You're weak, that you're strong. The US Army instead made it a badass, or the Marine Corps. Not everybody can be a Marine. And so I feel like there was that thing of.
And the other thing in Israel, which is very unique there, you witness this, you see a boy and a girl holding hands with the M16s or the M4 hanging in the back, and you think,
pretty hot. I have to say, I think all of us fell for that at one point or another.
No, I had to take pictures when I was there. Excuse me, I had to take a picture because I came from Brazil, which is on the other side of the planet, and this is surreal. Can I take a picture? They look at me like, okay, off you go. And also, I never met anywhere in the world where it says, I met my wife or my husband during my Army service. Where did you meet your husband? Oh, he was part of the other unit. Then we just start to see one another. And after the Army, we ended up getting married. I mean, this is something that's very hard to understand that.
I'll tell you a story. When we first came back from Somalia, we stopped in Eilat, and I didn't know what to expect, honestly, because you hear Israel, you just think like everybody, they just issue you a weapon as soon as you go there, and you're ready to go. So we come with the ship like super early. We pull into the port, and remember, one of the other ships instead stopped in Saudi Arabia, so it sucked for them. But for us and stuff, we get into we get into Eilat. It's super early, and all of a sudden you start seeing jet skis and everything. We're like, okay, this place is good. So we get out. This is after being 3 months between Mogadishu and the ship, so it was an intense time. We go down, and of course you have the typical group of Army guys walking together. Like we're all like weird. We're Italian, so we're tan, we're good looking, whatever. It's a different thing.
With the right bands and
exactly. It was Oakley's at that time, trying to keep it cool. But I still remember walking, and we go to this bar, and we go in there, and it was a hut, like right on the beach, and there were all these bikinis, and then Uzis in the back, and we're like, this is awesome. We're like, nobody wanted to leave Israel. It was like the promised land, really, but for different reasons.
If we are dreaming, don't wake us up. We want to stay here and stay forever.
Exactly. So we stayed there for 15 days.
Wow.
So nobody wanted to leave Israel at that point.
I can imagine.
But that's what kind of sold us. So we same thing. We were very surprised, and honestly, coming from the military, there's sometimes that I don't know how it is in the UK, but the military is not always viewed as a positive thing. In the Army.
Same thing here, yes. Unfortunately.
I mean, here now in the United States, there's all this, thank you for your service or whatever, but it's more of a patronizing thing. I don't like when people
If we don't thank your service, you're not going to fight for us again. So we better tell you that you're a nice boy, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm too old for that now, unless they do like, we invade Sweden. No, maybe Sweden, maybe no, but like something, Switzerland.
Switzerland, yeah. It's close to home, so you can go there.
Exactly. But yeah, exactly. But I just think that it was interesting to see that the civilians. I mean, I remember people used to pick up soldiers and take them home. You know what I mean? I'm sure you have seen them too, hitchhiking.
It's insane. Yes, yeah.
It's a different connection to the population. Everybody has somebody in the military. Everybody's been in the military.
Yeah. And I met many young guys there during 2002. I used to ask everybody, what's going on here? And the guy said, look, my grandfather fought in a war. My father fought another war. In other words, if I don't join the Army and I do what I need to do, I'll be killed at home, never mind in the war. So, I'd rather be killed by someone on the street than back home. So he was very much on that, family sort of tradition, pass it on to one another and so on. But at the same time, you have the other side. When these guys leave the Army, you know the story. They go absolutely crazy. South America and spend 6 months traveling and then experimenting things and seeing. It's a tricky one. But
the U.S. has the same problem too when people leave the Army. Unfortunately, you go from going at 400 miles per hour to 0, and I think everybody has a problem. I'm sure in the UK too.
Yeah.
Because you go from belonging to this machine, and being part of something, to all of a sudden you're stocking shelves at the supermarket, you know,
No,
I mean,
every
or
time
college.
I remember Rambo, the first on the First Blood, when he goes, I was fighting a multi-million-dollar machine over there, flying a helicopter. Over here, can I even get a job washing cars? So he put together exactly the feeling, and this is from the Vietnam time. Never mind now, if he had to produce that movie now, it would be a completely different story. But let me ask a question, let me change a little bit. What is the future for Krav Maga after Corona? Come on, give us the prediction. So we're gonna write it down, and if you get it right, you win a prize.
I just think that honestly, listen, it's a hard time. Stop. I'm moving my facility right now because I'm changing a little bit model. I wanted to do anyway. That, you know, I feel like it's a time to kind of rethink ourselves a little bit, because I do feel like we've been stagnant.
Right.
I'm talking with Krav Maga. I'm talking specifically for schools. Forget about the system.
Right.
We've been a little stagnant for a long time in some cases. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit Groundhog Day, and I feel like even the organizations, everybody is kind of doing the same thing they were doing 20 years ago, and just that now everybody split off and everybody's doing the same thing again. You know, you add IKMF, and then, you know, this guy or somebody moves, it's like, no, we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna do it different.
Different. We're gonna put a new logo with something, yeah.
Exactly. And I think that the system, honestly, especially with the MMA being so prevalent, I feel like even with all of us, we're so territorial when it comes to Krav Maga, and we're sometimes, I hate to say it, too stupid to see that Krav Maga is not really the problem, even in our market. And realistically, we are, you know, some people will, like I said, will just stay one-dimensional. And I think that people like us, honestly, not to put myself in a certain position or you, but I do feel like it became where Krav Maga was always evolving, and then it became dangerous to evolve because it became something else. And I feel like it's the dumbest thing ever and stuff, because we paint ourselves. I mean, there are still people in Krav Maga that say, no, I'm not going to go to the ground, and I feel like marketing wise, so to speak, it just puts us in a corner where a lot of times our schools are training people that will go on and train jiu-jitsu or Thai boxing. And and that happens all the time. If you think about it, most of the people that I'm sure you know too, or you guys know, as advanced students, they started doing jiu-jitsu, and me too, jiu-jitsu and Thai boxing. And so what are our students going to do if we don't have the balls to start implementing some of that information into our system?
Yeah.
We're gonna just, you know, we're just making people hungry, and they're gonna go feed someplace else.
Yes.
And so I think that right now we need to really look at our systems in a way that is objective, and make sure that we are, we are actually delivering on the promises of our students, because I think a lot of times we're not. I mean, I'm not saying me or you, I'm saying as an industry.
Yes, as a general, yeah.
It's because realistically, the industry impacts us too. It doesn't matter how good you are. I mean, you can be the best, I have no idea, chef in the world that does one cuisine. But if the cuisine sucks as far as everybody's concerned, that chef is still not going to be successable. Yeah. And so, obviously, I'm Italian, so the references are always food.
But, food, you know, of course, yes, yeah. Good reference, anyway.
I know you know. And but I just think that as a professional and stuff, I think it's a time to kind of step up our game. You know, I mean, I do feel that we have to be a little bit better on how we run the schools. I think that even for us as instructors, if we don't create different layers, even as far as, forget about coronavirus, even as far as age, like what will be our exit right now? We get old, we quit, maybe we have some money put away, but there's no legacy. Yeah. My goal, honestly, my number one thing is I hope that there is some legacy after me, that my instructors are doing better than I am, both financially and system-wise. Right. And I feel like that's going to allow him also to kind of withstand some of these problems right now with a virus right now. It could be a terrorist. I mean, again, I was in 9/11. I was in New York City. Everything shut down for a while. Yeah. And nobody wanted to train at that time. And so there are different versions. It can be a war zone, can be whatever. I just feel like as a community, we have to be more professional, and that's going to allow us to withstand this a little bit better. That's my feeling on it. And
what I see is that self-defense fighting is something that has been around forever, You know, we're in a phase where we don't have any big wars, but, you know, it's been like 70 something years. We had small wars in different parts of the planet, but not a big one. So fighting, people sort of forgot about it a bit, that they've been in the big cities for too long, eating from Pret a Manger and Nero around the corner, you know. They don't have to go out there hunt for the food anymore. So therefore they soften up a little. But I'm not sure if this corona is going to bring something back, or this will be completely, everything will become online now and will become the, you know, long finger.
I am definitely worried of a change in habit. You know, I mean, it takes a while to change habits.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting because I do feel like there's going to be a little bit of change in habit.
Mm.
Because we're talking about the business as far as how students see it. You know, it's gonna be interesting. You know, I'm not doing. I don't know if you guys are doing Zoom classes now. Honestly, by choice, I did a couple just to kind of see the students. I don't do Zoom classes. I mean, I have an online portal that they use. I tell them, send me videos and I'll help you. But, you know, I mean, I think that you can learn from videos.
Yeah.
Anything that Gracie's that show that in jiu-jitsu, the people can learn from videos if they have, but I want them to see themselves. You know, I mean, on Zoom, they're still kind of looking at me and I'm trying to look in the screen like this to make sure that they can do something and not kill the cat or the dog in the process. And instead, I think that people, like even right now with video, I feel like if we're better at how we use media, man, the system is going to skyrocket and we're going to be super awesome. Because listen, people like you and me, Joe, we learn remotely. We didn't have a freaking Eyal stay there every day yelling at us 5 days a week, 3 hours a day. We had to take the information, go back to Israel after 6 months, 3 months or whatever, get assessed, go back and do it again. And I feel like it takes a certain type of person to do that. And that's the person that you need to be. You're taking responsibility for your training. And
then you had all the, there's a little variation. The word variation became this like,
what? Variation.
What are you talking about variation? You changed the technique? No, we changed it a long time ago. How long ago was this? I was here 3 months ago. You know, it was.
Absolutely. Yeah, but it takes a certain, you know what though, is keeping, I'm not saying that it's good, but I think that definitely we can help. Like I love videos when people send me videos. I tell them, listen, look at the technique, mimic the movement, and then send me something and I can help you. Because by the time the person records a video and send me the video, I know they recorded already 10 videos.
Yeah.
And other of them suck. So I force them to look at their stuff. And then finally, when they send me something, they're still sending and say, listen, I'm sending you this one,
but I'm not sure.
Not that good, you know? And I want them to look, but in class, you don't have that feedback. People will continue doing the same bullshit wrong all the time. And instead is reinforcing the mistake. So I definitely think the mistake for us as a community, if we are trying to do what we do in class, but on video, and that's why we have to be careful with Zoom, because if we're not changing the way we're doing things, using the tools like media the proper way, then we're failing. You know what I mean? And I think that everybody is trying to do exactly what they were doing in class, but over Zoom, the same type of whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, I think it's a mistake. You know, I mean, it should elevate what we do.
Yeah. The only problem that I see with all this is that we've been teaching classes Monday to Friday. I teach half an hour for white and yellow belts, half an hour for orange, green, and purple, and then half an hour for the blue belts and brown belts. So I have a 12 weeks program where we had this before that. You know the story. You teach your classes, you know exactly where you stopped last class, and you know the new class is going to do something else. But in your head, as soon as you have 5 instructors taking classes, then the styles will completely change. One is more groundwork, so he's going to do more groundwork exercise. The other one is more karate, more punches and kicks, and so on. Mm-hmm. So we had to put together a plan where everybody follows the syllabus. So we split the syllabus in 12 weeks. Yeah. We have 4 gradings a year. Not necessarily you need to grade every 3 months, but if you have X number of sessions that you need to go through, then you're qualified to grade and so on. So we kept doing that. Instead of 1.5 hour class, I teach half an hour class. And the idea with that is show the techniques and the points. You know, I teach them the same way I teach the instructors pretty much. Those are the key points. That's the variation. This is the technique. You can do this, you can do that. But what I keep saying all the time is what you just said. Record yourself performing the technique, send the video over. I can give you feedback, send it back to you. That means you're spending time and effort doing this. You are trying, you're improving. You know what I mean? So when we are back training again, whenever that might be, you didn't actually waste any time. You did not just sat there drinking beer and eating pasta all day. At least you improved. You managed to continue progressing.
I completely agree.
But the other problem is, with everything in Krav Maga, you became an instructor. They gave you 180 hours of techniques, defense against this, that. There's a little box for you, piece of paper in Hebrew saying you're a Krav Maga instructor. Very good. Now, good luck to you opening your business and starting. What about marketing? I have no idea about marketing. And what about insurance? No idea about insurance. It is your problem. So you managed to find all that. You managed to progress, but still, we don't have like a manual, Krav Maga 101 or Krav Maga for Dummies, where you can go buy the book and go, okay, by the way, what do we do online? Let me go page number 10. Oh, when you're teaching online, you should focus on X, Y, and Z. So we are pretty much finding out by teaching people by mistakes. Some of us decided to go the Zoom, sort of down the route of Zoom. Some others prefer record lessons and then send them once a week, a bunch of lessons. Some others have, like you, this online portal where people can go and learn from there whatever they want to learn. But it's a tricky one because there's pretty much measuring. What I felt here is that recording classes, sending to people, they don't respond in the same way. With the Zoom, at least I have a headphone where I can say, if you want to ask a question about a technique, unmute your microphone, ask them the question. I can reply back to you straight away. We clear that question. We move on once you understand that. And so far, it's okay. We've been doing this for
I'm doing privates like that. I'm doing privates like that where people will ask me questions, but I always tell them, send me something first, if you can, because otherwise you waste your time. You know, I mean, it's just, if I know already what you want to do and I see already what you're doing, then it becomes easier so we can address it together. But you see, but then the half an hour that you do is more guiding their practice. They're not practicing for half an hour.
No.
It's different. You know, I completely agree with that. You know, as far as the business, honestly, and this is something that I struggle because, but that I started my own thing a little bit. So my thing was really more on the school, not on the system, because I think that there are tremendous people that have tremendous to offer for the system. But my thing is, like, if you think about it like a lawyer will go to school for a certain amount of years, but nobody graduates law school and starts a law firm. Usually what happens is they'll go in a place, I don't know how it is in England, but they'll work as an internship or a practicum, they call it here, for a certain amount of years, or a doctor. You don't just go, okay, graduate medical school, give me somebody. I mean, it is a tremendous process. I think that part of the problem is that still with that feeling of instructor courses, we are fragmenting the information, where I'm sure you had before people that became instructors and then moved and they opened their own school. And these people don't know shit. Doing the instructor course does not. So I like the belts, for example, because it forces, I always tell people, if you stay with me until black belt, you're going to learn. Now, you want to open your school afterwards, you know what? You're going to have the tools. You're going to see what you want to do, and you're going to see what you don't want to do, because you actually were able to spend enough time with me. But when somebody goes after a year to an instructor course, and then they feel empowered because KMG or IKMF or Worldwide wants another location, and these guys go, they still pay the same licensees that they have or the same amount. They have 2 students, or they have 100 students or 200. And so obviously these organizations want them to go out, but I would like to do kind of, if you think about it, traditional martial arts. Nobody left Taekwondo. We all make fun of traditional martial arts. Nobody leaves Taekwondo as a green belt and opens a school. No. It's ridiculous. No. But we are instead a real life. And in a way, I'd rather do it with Taekwondo. At least the intent is not to defend myself a certain way. But I think it's very responsible. That's why I think it's important. If we create a culture where, hey, like I guess something stupid that I made with the organization with 360, if you're not an instructor unless you are a black belt. I don't give a shit what courses you do. Obviously, we do like guided things. But my goal was to kind of differentiate, kind of you were saying with the belts before when you look down the line. Yeah. If you are brown belt and below, you're a coach. If you are black belt, you're an instructor. Right. At least it gives us a chance to kind of differentiate. I want people to work towards something, because otherwise you have somebody that is trained for 6 months, that did a GIC or whatever they call it these days, and has the same qualification as you. Yeah. It's incredible. It's a disservice to the students. Yeah, but initially when they left pretty much Israel with a bag full of diplomas and patches and used to travel around the world, you know what I'm talking about. Running courses for 10 people, certifying 10 instructors.
That's your piece of paper. Off you go. Open a business, and then if you have students, you invite me back, and then we do business. That was pretty much. It's like I call them the big turtles that come to the beach, drop all those eggs, disappear. If the eggs hatch and they go back to the ocean, congratulations, we have little babies there. But if they don't, then at least I took the money from that bunch of guys there.
Yeah.
But this became obsolete in a way that, because clubs like yourself, you grow, you're thinking about the business, you're developing people, you want them to coach, you want them to get the experience, and then eventually if they want to open their own businesses, they got the experience because they've been teaching, they know how to deal with people. Because one of the biggest issues we had is people become an instructor, after 3 months they realize, but teaching people sucks. They're full of ideas, full of ego, full of this, nobody listens to what I'm saying. Yeah, congratulations, this is the instructing world. You are trying to convince people, but it's not easy. Not everybody's going to go down that road. Then they give up. They disappear. And sometimes you lose a very good student that became an instructor, but they didn't have what it takes to become an instructor. So he was a good
student. Like even when you're talking about Israel, unfortunately, one of my biggest things also with listen, United States, it kind of developed later.
Yeah.
I started working with him in 2006 and stuff, and IKMF was still a disaster. Avi still had the Texas. There's all the drama, like the housewives of Israel.
That was exactly what it was.
It was, and so, but one thing that was interesting though is, listen, at that point when I joined the YAL with IKMF, I had about 350 students in my location.
Wow, that was good.
So the thing with that was, so we started becoming a model for other schools. Now the biggest problems that unfortunately, it goes back to what we said at the very beginning. We're saying about skill, not translating into teaching. Some of these guys should not be teaching instructors.
Yeah.
I mean, you can teach practitioners, you can make a badass, but the reality is that most of these guys don't have schools. I mean, 99% of the Israelis that we had, super nice guys, some of them are tremendous, but they don't understand how to teach people. And that's what you would have in a YAL that is tremendously talented, come in, and people are not happy taking a seminar.
Yeah.
And because I always told the YAL is like, you know what it takes to teach somebody? Because by the time people are in front of a YAL, they already went through a filter at our schools.
Yes.
But we see everything. We see people with like hands that go like, you say right, left, they're all cross-sided, and that's just working with the public, and so we are making people that are becoming these instructors. I mean, we are in the trenches doing introductory classes. People come and try the class. When was the last time that a YAL or anybody else did an introductory class? To people that had never, you know what I mean? It's just taught a first timer that comes in, but those are important things, because the moment you're saying that what other, let's call it a franchise, just to kind of, for generic terms, what other franchise being, I don't know what you guys have over there, but if you set up a franchise or licensing, usually your licensing or franchising methods and procedures that were proven in 1, 2, 3, or 5 locations.
Yeah.
The problem with these guys is that
never had that.
No. And so in a lot of times, how many times, I'm sure you've seen it too, they'll go to places, they're almost pissed off because they come to your school and they see you're making money.
Yeah.
And so then the thing becomes is like, hold on a second here. Joe is freaking, he's got 200 people here.
I failed.
I have to charge him more.
I failed my G5 grading because of that. I failed the day I went to the airport to meet the Israeli, because I made a joke on the way back. I says, wow, this is back in 2006. Wow, I'm making like 300 pounds a week back in the day, teaching private lessons and stuff. And he looked at me like this. And I realized later, I failed the grading right there and then. So then 2 days later, I'm there for 5 hours grading, killing myself. And towards the end, he looked at me like, yeah, not very good enough. You failed, do it again. And that was it. That was my feedback. But the feedback is based on what you just said. It's exactly the same. We had the same experiences.
And we know that, listen, the tension with the YAL, and listen, I consider YAL family. It was there when my daughter was born and stuff. I mean, it's just, like I said, I was lucky like you to be in a certain time in which we got exposure to these guys in a way that is not what people get exposed to right now.
Not anymore, no.
And but on the flip side, it would burn the biggest problem with Darren was the fact that they were making more money than him.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, that Darren will still have this facility, but the people don't understand that in the United States, Darren did not sell, at a certain point, I think he had about 400 licensees. I mean, they were doing incredible. Plus also they were charging a lot, they were doing instructor courses. I mean, it was crazy. But but their take wasn't about Krav Maga, the system, because obviously that was part of it. It was the fact that a place that had, I don't know now in square meters, about 500 square feet, 500 square meters, I'm sorry, 500 square meters. I don't know, you guys are strange too, or
5,000.
5,000 feet, yeah. 5,000 square feet. They had I forget now, it was like over 1,000 members.
Oh, the
you know,
space
and
was
so,
massive. Yes, yes.
but for a small space.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to teach over there. They had class in the morning, the afternoon. There were two medium-sized floor and one small floor, and everything was packed all the time.
Right.
But that was their product. So they went to the big Taekwondo places and so on, saying, "Hey, look, you have kids. You want adults like us?" Because they were there with 3 adults, and so all these ATA, American Taekwondo Association, all that, jumped on board, and they started having 200-300 adults, and that's what grew the system here in the U.S. It wasn't what we think. Now, y'all did it the other way, where it kind of rode the coattail also of them too, but it was really a business thing.
Yeah.
That's what drove. I mean, you have a school in Houston, Texas, that has 7,000 members. You know, right now, 7,000. Wow. Now, obviously, a lot of them also train kettlebells and whatever,
Yes,
but
still.
But it's 7,000 people
Wow.
training at the Houston, or no, I'm sorry, San Antonio, Texas.
The 7,000 still there. It could be in the Mars, my friend. With 7,000 people, Mamma mia.
San Francisco had about 1,000 people at a certain point. Listen, we had about 1,000 people at one point, you know, between 2 locations. And so it was different because there was a method. The method wasn't, okay, I'm teaching gun defense and so on. The method is when you went to worldwide, you would have people go through the class and they were teaching the recipe. They weren't teaching the ingredient.
Right.
They would give the ingredient, but teach the recipe. And so when they had these instructors in Arkansas or something, they would go with that recipe and it would work. They had the pants a certain way. They had the cool t-shirt. They had the marketing material to go with it, but everything was consistent. When you do KMG in UK or in Israel, or in whatever, the product is different. The marketing, maybe some of the tools will be the same, but the product is different.
Yeah.
And so that's what the failure is. There's not a consistent,
there we go.
You know, I don't know the brands over there in England, the stuff, but if it is, there's a Soul Cycle. I don't know if you know Soul Cycle. It's like a spin class or whatever. I think they have some in London too that they're opening.
Maybe.
It's a tremendous brand. But all their studios are the same. The instructors go to certain things and the instructors are learning. They're all spinning instructors, but they're learning their way of spinning.
Right.
And if they're going to work a Soul Cycle, for us, one guy has a Kempo background, the other guy likes better this way.
Yeah.
Some people do gun defenses for beginners.
Yes. We've seen it all. Yes.
I know. And so that becomes hurtful for all of us as a system, because you can't say train Krav Maga because it's effective. Which one? Yours, mine, or somebody else's?
Which one exactly? That's always the question.
Exactly, and that's a huge problem. I think consistency, like jiu-jitsu, you know that you're training jiu-jitsu, certain thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. There's a friend of mine that was the first Italian black belt.
Show me that pen again.
Oh, that's funny. Just beamed it here with some Star Trek stuff.
Oh, Jesus.
But you know, jiu-jitsu, there's a friend of mine that was the first black belt in Italy. His name is Federico Tisi. Tremendous guy. He has a great school now in Rome, and he runs the biggest Brazilian jiu-jitsu organization in Italy. And he told me, he's like, you know what? Jiu-jitsu is good. And it's true, by the way, in some cases. Because even bad jiu-jitsu schools are still better than other schools.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you look at it. And so we forget that we need to deliver a little bit on our promises. It's okay to have better instructor and great instructor. It's normal.
Yeah.
The problem is that as an industry, we are all over the place. I mean, you have guys with camouflage pants teaching with real knives and, you know, whatever. You have other, you know, it's it's problematic. And then there are people that cannot punch or kick.
There we go.
You know, I have expert guys from Israel come to my school, and we were doing Thai pads, and my students, and one of my guys was holding Thai pads, and it's like, because the guy was hitting the pads wrong. I mean,
yes,
you know, there are some videos, even KMG videos, in which instructors, I'm not going to say because it's not that difficult to find, where they're holding the Thai pads facing in. Like
No.
you see them on the video where they're holding that, so the pads is here,
I've
and they're
always-
holding pads like this.
I always have a theory that, back in the day, they used to joke about it. People used to work in a petrol station in Israel. And then one day someone stopped a car. Do you want to become a Krav Maga instructor? I have a business for you in the US. They're going to pay you X amount of days. So are you interested? Join me. Get in the back of the car. I'll teach you some basics. Off we go. And we've seen this. I stood in a grading with a guy that didn't have the skills, but because he was part of the instructor team, he was supposed to fly to a country where he could speak the language, teach beginners over there. Nobody cares. For the second level of the course, I'll send someone more experienced. For the final part of the course, I send a guy who actually knows about it. So, it became a business, but not very clever, not very honest in a sense there. So, anyway.
Long term, it hurts us. I do feel that if we look at it, listen, there are some things that martial arts did well. That we like it or no, Kyokushinkai karate or whatever.
Yeah.
It has a hold around the world that is incredible, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever. I think that sometimes, yes, at the beginning, you're not going to have that exponential growth that you might have with a Krav Maga, but it pays dividends long term.
Yeah.
And I feel like instead we went for that exponential. How many thousands of people were certified by KMG, Worldwide, IKMF, and IKI, whoever, CIA, I don't know how many acronyms there are. How many thousands and thousands of people, and where are they? Because ultimately, and all of us as an industry are trying to follow the same footsteps, but expect different results.
Yeah.
And that's the problem right now with a lot of the organizations. Everybody thinks that, no, I'm going to get certified, I'm going to open a school.
And I'm going to have 1,000 students.
Exactly. And nobody does it. I feel like if it's only 5 of us that are successful, because there are plenty of people out there, but there are not many students.
Yeah.
And we know some of the dirty, we talked about before, some people are very, very big on video.
Yeah.
But then when you look behind the scenes, anybody can be big on video. And the problem is that if only 5 people out of 10,000 make it, but that is not good odds and stuff.
It's not good. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And these courses have to change. The recruiting has to change. I love the fact that we're in contact because, I think that that's the future. I feel like you can have people that are doing different things, work together, and that is the future.
Listen, we've been talking for more than an hour, and I'm sure we could sit here talking for another day. But
Adrian, I see you. Your background also is making you a little bit like, I feel like you're in the water, but slanted.
I'm moving about here. What we need to do is this. We need to come back and do it again. So Joel is saying here, it was a great interview. Great to hear Alan talk about the old days with Haim. Tough training. Yeah, it was tough training. People used to beat one another like there was no tomorrow, eh?
There was no beating one another. It was only me getting beaten. I don't know about the one another thing. I don't know what. It's a different episode.
So for people to understand, how tall are you? You're about 2 meters tall.
About 6'4". I'm like
100,
1 meter and 94 inches.
And he's talking about being beaten up. Imagine me, which is about 1.5 meters tall, in Israel.
Yeah, you can sneak in. You're fast.
I could move my head.
Huge target, Danny. I felt like every time there was a kick in my face or kick, it was too much.
Man, this is insane. But Alan, thank you very much, man. Thanks for the time. Well, let's maybe organize a second one because we need to talk more about these things. And I'm sure the young instructors here, even Joel is going to be scratching his head, sitting back and having to be a large glass of wine today to think about all this because there's a lot of things to
It's a little early for that, but I'll wait a couple of minutes.
No. It's lunchtime somewhere, yeah. But anyway, but thank you very much. Appreciate for that, and for sure, let's.
Hey, Dr. Somebody, I love that we did this and stuff. I'm a European, and I love the fact that what you guys are doing and stuff. So it makes me. I see your stuff.
Let me invite you for something. Joel's here, and some other instructors. All I want to do is one day where we have Krav Maga instructors around the globe having this conversation here. 1 hour, 2 hours was the case for us to, chuck ideas from what you're doing there and what is working, what we've been doing here, what is working and not working, and different, I have Ernie in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I have guys in Italy, in Napoli. I have guys, in Holland, for instance. So let's do that. Let's organize something.
Totally. But thank you guys for having me. Thank you, Joe, for setting this up. Adrian, I see a bunch of other faces. I see, yes. I don't think Mark Zuckerberg on it. I see somebody with him on it. I don't think it was him watching. But
not really. But thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thanks for that. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Cheers.
Anytime.